there was just a gut feeling on Friday night pre-game when you heard that Harry Mackay was a late out, coupled with their other injuries, coming off a 5-day break. You just thought maybe this won't be their night, and it wasn't.
Yeah, maybe not. We weren't saying that during the second quarter when they piled on 7 goals, were we? But, you know, I'm not... Others are really panicking on Carlton. I'm not as yet. I'm just not. Now, they've got to fix up parts of the game, but tell me a club that hasn't got issues in their game at the moment. Maybe the Dogs, because they're playing really, really well. But every other team, they're going through a spot. They're not as tough as they used to be, the Blues. On the weekend, they played off a 5-day break without 3 of their best 6 players. Now, you can say, OK, everyone's got injuries, but you take out the 2 tools, Harry and De Koning, and as the game wore on, I don't care what anyone says, they couldn't take a mark. And Port dominated in the air, and then they didn't have Blake Acres on the wing to run. I reckon Walsh is hurt. I'm not giving up on the Blues, but they've got areas they've got to get better. They've got to get back to being that tough Blues that we saw through the final series.
I was thinking that. I think there is still a lot of reason to be glass half full on Carlton, but you do think back to this time last year and they were on that 9-game winning streak and there was such momentum with Carlton because they were such a physical force.
Yes, they were.
Opposition teams didn't want to play them and there was, you know, Carlton fans just taking over this city. There isn't that same feeling with Carlton right now.
No, there's not, but it's a new year. There are going to be different challenges for teams challenging, and Carlton have been presented with some injury challenges.
More that physical nature they were.
They weren't, but they haven't got that at the moment. That's not to say they can't get it back again, but at the moment they're in a bit of a rut. Not too bad. I don't think it's too bad. We'll see what happens.
I agree. Let's turn our attention to Sunday afternoon at the SCG, where there were 2 stories to emerge from this game. The outstanding Bulldogs and the Swans, and the coach was certainly concerned post-game.
Oh, disappointment. We've been competitive for the entire season and we weren't today. So we were really disappointed in how we went. Got off to another poor start and really not any real part of our game looked like it should. So it was a really disappointing performance. The previous, we lost those by a kick, and I think there'd be quite a few people that say we're really competitive in those games, so we had a chance to win all of them. So this one's a bit different. This one's a disappointing one.
He's right, those 4 losses prior were by a combined margin of 10 points, but this was a very different loss, wasn't it? In saying that, you mentioned players and having your best players missing. So they were without Papley, Rampy, McInerney, Rowbottom, and then lose Melican, which certainly doesn't help when you're up against the likes of Jamara, Norton and co. It was a bad loss, but I think the real criticism comes if they perform again in a similar vein on Saturday against Port.
Every team had a mulligan this year, and that was certainly theirs on the weekend. I mean, they're like Carlton, they've got areas of concern. And one of them's, they're missing Rampy down the back and Melican didn't play, etc., etc. But I think there's a real bigger issue across the forward group. I mean, they rely so much on their mid-sized forwards and mids to kick goals because they're not getting a lot out of their 3 tall forwards. So they've got some little bit of issues. And mate, they're coming up against the Dogs, who were absolutely furious with their attack on the ball. They had so much to play for, the Dogs. And these guys have been on top all year and they're trying to get to the end. Maybe they were right for the picking, injuries, and the Dogs just went kapow and hit them between the eyes.
Yeah, they're fit and firing, the Bulldogs, aren't they? So the Swans, they're still 6 points clear on top. They hopefully get Rowbottom back this week and he just adds that grunt, doesn't he? That tackle pressure. Tom Papley on track to hopefully return round 24, get a game under his belt, then have the week off and get stuck into finals.
Well, I hope he's good first up. I hope he's good. But yeah, they've just got to hang in there at the moment. They've got to hang tough, but they are a hang tough sort of football club.
Let's get to the Bulldogs, shall we? The statement of the weekend. So going to Sydney and defeating the benchmark in the competition after beating Carlton and Geelong in Geelong. So 3 straight wins for the first time this season and all against top 4 teams. Could they be timing their run to perfection, Robbo?
Oh, they could be. It's a long run.
Yeah, true.
We're
Still a bit to play out.
We've got 4 games to go and they win it. They'll have to win at least 3, maybe 4 coming into a grand final. What they're doing, the Dogs, is they've got their game in pretty good order. Some of it's good management, some of it's lucky. Who would have thought that Rory Lobb's going to go back and be Ted Whitten at centre-half back? Now, old Dogs, I'm only joking, he's not as good as Ted Whitten, it's just a throwaway line. But he's gone back, and him and Liam Jones on the weekend, man, they were like the wall. They couldn't get it past them. And then it went forward, and this bloke, I don't want to go through it again if you missed the top of the show.
Go on.
This guy, he's patrolling the forward 50 as if to say, give me the ball. Look at that. On his right. My God, if and he's starting to fly, don't go one-handed. But their game's in order. Adam Treloar, 40 touches. It was just magnificent.
He's been outstanding, hasn't he? But
their role players are playing well, and they are dog hungry, and that makes a big difference.
Remember the start of the season, though? There was such heat on this club. People questioning Luke Beveridge, reports on he and Chris Grant's relationship, people questioning the list. Are they rebuilding on the run? What's happening there?
Legitimate.
Yes, at the time, but how about how they've turned it around internally, though? Got to work and playing the football they are. And as you mentioned, that rock-solid back six they now have, a functioning back six, which has been the knock on the Bulldogs for a while.
Yeah, it is. But you've got to remember the off-season last year. They had an internal review. Then they had an external review led by Peter Jackson. They clean out their assistant coaches. They get a new head of football in. And then they said, we want improvement this year. It
was all valid at the time, but the way that they have weathered that storm and that media attention and to be playing the way they are right now, kudos to them.
Oh, kudos. It's incredible what Luke Beveridge and the team has been able to do. I think they've warded off the media, if you want to call it that, and supporters twice this season. And to, as you say, to what they did in the last 3 weeks, I think is as good as a 3-week patch of any team this year.
Do you think they'll finish top 4? They could.
They keep playing like they did on the weekend, they will.
They got Melbourne at Marvel, Adelaide at Adelaide Oval, North at Marvel and GWS in Ballarat. You're probably
you would think tick, tick, tick.
With the way they're playing, the way they played yesterday.
They could be flag favourites in 2 weeks.
The footy world does move on quickly, though, doesn't it? And we turn our attention to this week now, and it's going to be all about Scott Pendlebury and game 400. He'll play this on Saturday night when Collingwood meet Carlton, and he let something else slip when he spoke to his former coach on radio this morning.
To be honest, just want to get through 400 and try and get another win. But, yeah, I've got a contract for next year, so it'll depend on how my form and how the team's going. And Fly has been really good with me, and the conversations we have ongoing about where he sees me, where I see myself, and also planning for the future, because I know that I'm probably on the back 3 of the golf course, probably the back 2. Yeah, it's all done. I think there's just a few final little details, but yeah, it's all locked away. So looking forward to playing next year.
I love how casually it was revealed. Yeah, so I've got the contract for next year. How good does the Scott Pendlebury 400 merch?
Yeah, it's going to be a big week, isn't it?
God, the Collingwood Army will come out in force on Saturday night, you imagine?
Well, with Pendles, he's had so many accolades thrown at him. There's Coventry, Bobby Rose, Nathan Buckley, Peter Dacos, Scott Pendlebury, and in 15 years' time, Nick Dacos will be in that group. But that is Collingwood royalty. And for him to play 400 games is just incredible. Once again, he's got the build for it, the wiry sort of midfielder type. They get through. I don't know what he's doing, the 20-year-old hand gestures after goals.
Oh, let him
He's almost 40 years of age. People have been emailing me today. Do you know what it is when they put their hands up like that? I don't know. I wouldn't.
We'll ask Jeremy Howe tomorrow. He's joining us at the desk. But you'd imagine that he'll probably surpass Kevin Bartlett and Sean Burgoyne as well.
What's
next
KB
year.
on? 404?
403.
403.
Sean Burgoyne, 407.
If he plays on next year, he absolutely will be.
It's amazing. He's going to be 37 next year and embarking on a 20th AFL season.
You weren't even born, but I remember when Michael Tucker, 38, wanted to keep playing. Everyone's going, what's going on here? I didn't think I'd ever see a 37-year-old playing footy again. No, well done. He deserves a great celebratory week.
And we're going to do that on 360.